The smell of grease and motor oil had become my cologne, and frankly, I preferred it to whatever expensive crap my wife Marissa wore these days. Standing in my cluttered garage at midnight, wrench in hand, I heard her voice drift through the thin walls of our house like poison through water. "You think Sam's the only man in my life? Please, Travis. He's just the one paying the mortgage." Her laughter cut through me sharper than any blade. 20 years of marriage, and this is what it came to, me eavesdropping on my own wife like some pathetic detective in a bad movie. I set down the wrench and wiped my hands on an already filthy rag. Sam Jordan, 42 years old, owner of Jordan's Hardware, the kind of place where locals came to buy screws and leave with life advice. At least, that's what I used to tell myself. These days, it felt more like a museum for obsolete dreams. Through the garage window, I could see Marissa pacing in our kitchen, phone pressed to her ear like it was surgically attached. Her promotion to regional HR manager 6 months ago had changed everything. New clothes, new attitude, new late-night work meetings that apparently involved this Travis character. "He's in the garage again," she continued, voice dripping with contempt, "playing with his tools like a 12-year-old. God, sometimes I wonder what I ever saw in him. The funny thing about betrayal is how it clarifies everything. All those nights she came home smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. All those sudden work emergencies. All those times she looked at me like I was something she'd stepped in. I pulled out my phone and opened our shared calendar app, something she'd insisted we use to coordinate our busy lives. There it was, plain as day. Late meeting with regional team, scheduled for tomorrow night at 7. Funny thing was, I'd seen her real work calendar on her laptop last week. No meeting scheduled. My phone buzzed. A text from my old boxing coach, Pete. "Beer at the Blue Anchor? You look like hell lately." Pete owned the dive bar where half the town went to forget their problems. The other half went to create new ones. I texted back, "Rain check. Got some research to do." Marissa's voice grew louder. "No, I can't meet you at the usual place. That motel's getting too risky." "What about your apartment?" Travis. I'd heard that name around town. Travis Dill worked at Murphy's car lot, drove a red Mustang like he was compensating for something. The kind of guy who wore too much cologne and called every woman sweetheart, whether he knew them or not. I opened my laptop and did what any modern husband would do. I went full stalker mode on social media. Travis's Facebook page was a monument to his own ego. Gym selfies, car photos, and check-ins at restaurants I couldn't afford, but the interesting part was the timeline. Every work meeting on Marissa's calendar corresponded with Travis posting photos from the Sleepy Inn motel across town. The pieces fell together like a perfectly engineered machine. My wife wasn't just cheating, she was insulting my intelligence while doing it. I grabbed my jacket and keys. Time for a little reconnaissance. The Sleepy Inn lived up to its reputation as the kind of place where people went to do things they couldn't do at home. I parked across the street and waited. Sure enough, at 11:30, Marissa's silver Honda pulled into the lot, followed minutes later by Travis's red Mustang. Room 237. I memorized the number and drove home. Back in my garage, I formulated a plan that would have made my old boxing coach proud. Pete always said the best fighters weren't the strongest. They were the smartest. They waited for the perfect opening, then struck with precision. The next morning, Marissa acted like nothing had happened. She sipped her coffee, scrolled through her phone, and reminded me about dinner with her sister's family on Saturday. "Don't embarrass me this time, Sam. Jennifer's husband just made partner at his law firm. Jennifer, my sister-in-law who treated me like I was contaminated. Her husband, Brad, was one of those guys who wore his success like a weapon, constantly dropping hints about their vacation home and their kids' private school tuition. Wouldn't dream of it," I said, loading extra sarcasm into my voice. That afternoon at the hardware store, I had a visitor. Laura Chen, Marissa's best friend and fellow HR manager, browsed the paint section like she was shopping for nuclear weapons. "Sam, I hope you know how lucky you are," she said, not looking at me. Marissa's really going places. You should be more supportive. Supportive of what, exactly? Laura's smile could have frozen hell. Her career, her ambitions. Some wives need more than a husband who smells like WD-40. After she left, I called Pete. I need to use your computer. Mine's acting up. The Blue Anchor's back office smelled like stale beer and broken dreams. Perfect atmosphere for what I had planned. I logged into the shared calendar and made a small adjustment to Marissa's late meeting entry, adding a note. Dinner with Travis afterward, Sleepy Inn, room 237. Then I sent Travis a text from Marissa's phone. Change of plans. Meet me at Murphy's car lot at 6 p.m. We need to talk. And finally, I sent Marissa a message from Travis's phone. Your husband knows. Meet me at the hardware store before he does something stupid. Pete watched me work. You sure about this, Sam? Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. At 5:30, I positioned myself across from Murphy's car lot with a perfect view. Travis paced the parking lot like a caged animal, checking his phone every 30 seconds. At 6:15, he called someone, probably Marissa, and I could see his confusion even from a distance. Meanwhile, Marissa had shown up at my store, demanding to know where I was. My part-time employee Jake told her I'd gone home sick. She left in a fury, tires squealing. By 7 p.m., both of them were calling each other, trying to figure out what had gone wrong. I sat in the Blue Anchor, drinking a beer and watching the chaos unfold through carefully placed phone calls. Pete, I said, you ever notice how liars always assume everyone else is lying too? The real fireworks started on Saturday at dinner with Jennifer and Brad. Their house was one of those modern monstrosities that screamed, "Look how much money we have." Jennifer had prepared her usual spread of passive-aggressive comments disguised as concern. Sam, you look tired. Are you getting enough sleep? Marissa's been working late a lot, I replied. Big meetings with regional teams, very important stuff. Brad nodded knowingly. That's the price of success. Jennifer and I understand completely. Speaking of understanding, I continued, Marissa's been so dedicated, even working weekends at the Sleepy Inn. That's where they hold their team-building retreats. The silence that followed was beautiful. Jennifer's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Brad's wine glass froze in mid-air. Marissa's face went through several shades of red before settling on something resembling raw panic. Sam, she said carefully, I think you're confused. Am I? Because I drove by there last Wednesday around midnight, saw your car, and that red Mustang. Funny coincidence, right? Jennifer set down her fork. Marissa, what is he talking about? The explosion was everything I'd hoped for. Marissa tried to deny it. Jennifer demanded explanations. Brad attempted to play peacemaker, and I sat back enjoying the show. 20 years of being treated like the family disappointment, and finally, I had their attention. You followed me? Marissa screamed. You pathetic, jealous loser. I didn't have to follow you. You put it on our shared calendar. Late meeting with regional team. Very creative code name for Travis. Jennifer's voice could have cut glass. Travis? Travis Dill from the car lot? Marissa, tell me you're not that stupid. The dinner ended with Marissa storming out, Jennifer crying, and Brad asking if I wanted a drink. For the first time in years, I actually liked my brother-in-law. Monday morning brought new developments. Laura showed up at my store again, this time with reinforcements, 2 other women from Marissa's office who'd apparently been recruited for an intervention. Sam, you need to stop this childish behavior, announced Linda, Marissa's supervisor. You're embarrassing your wife professionally. And personally, added Carol, another HR manager. Everyone's talking. I looked up from the inventory I was counting. Talking about what? About your accusations. About how you're trying to sabotage Marissa's career because you can't handle her success. The irony was delicious. They'd come to defend Marissa's honor without knowing there was no honor to defend. I made a decision that would change everything. Ladies, I appreciate your concern. But maybe you should ask Marissa about her relationship with Travis before you assume I'm the problem. Linda's expression shifted. What relationship? I pulled out my phone and showed them the photos I'd taken at the Sleepy Inn. Not of anything inappropriate, just Marissa's car and Travis's Mustang in the same parking lot at midnight. Let their imaginations fill in the blanks. The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Carol spoke first. Marissa told us you were having mental health issues. Did she also tell you about her weekly visits to room 237? They left without another word, but I could see the doubt in their eyes. Seeds planted. That afternoon, Pete called with news. Your wife was at Murphy's car lot. Looked like she was having a heated conversation with that Travis character. The dominoes were falling exactly as I'd planned. By creating confusion and suspicion, I'd forced them to meet in public, where people would see them together. In a town like ours, that was as good as a confession. Wednesday brought the confrontation I'd been waiting for. Marissa came home early, face flushed with anger. You son of a bitch. You've been playing games. I looked up from my dinner. Games? I thought we were both playing games. You're just better at it than I am. I never... Room 237, Travis Dill. The Sleepy Inn. Should I continue? Her shoulders sagged. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Sam, it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. The only question is what we do about it. She sat down across from me, and for the first time in months, she looked like the woman I'd married. Vulnerable. Human. It started as nothing. Just someone who listened to me. You and I, we've been strangers for years. So you decided to become strangers with someone else too. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been asking for a divorce before you started your little side project. Fair would have been not making me look like an idiot in front of the whole town. Nobody knows. Everybody knows Marissa. This is a small town. People see things. People talk. The next few days were a cold war. We moved around each other like ghosts, speaking only when necessary. She slept in the guest room. I worked late at the store. The house felt like a museum of our failed marriage. Then came Friday, and everything exploded. I was closing the store when Travis walked in. Up close, he was smaller than I'd expected. Still cocky, but there was something desperate in his eyes. We need to talk, he said. Do we? Look, I don't want any trouble. Maybe we can work something out. I set down my clipboard and studied him. What kind of something? Marissa says you want a divorce. I can help make that happen. Smooth. No drama. How generous of you. I'm serious. She deserves better than this. That's when I lost it. Not violently. I'm not that kind of man. But something inside me snapped like an old rubber band. She deserves better? You mean she deserves a used car salesman who can't afford to take her anywhere better than the Sleepy Inn? His face reddened. At least I make her happy. Do you? Because, from what I can see, she's been pretty miserable lately. Guilty conscience, maybe? You don't know anything about us. I know you drive a car you can't afford, live in an apartment that smells like desperation, and you're sleeping with a married woman because you can't get one of your own. He stepped closer. You want to say that again? Which part? The part about the car, the apartment, or the fact that you're a home-wrecking piece of garbage? He swung at me. I'd been expecting it. Guys like Travis always resort to violence when their egos get bruised. I ducked, grabbed his wrist, and twisted just enough to send him stumbling into a display of paint cans. Get out of my store. He scrambled to his feet, face twisted with rage and embarrassment. This isn't over. Yeah, it is. That night, Marissa came home with tears in her eyes and Travis's cologne on her clothes. He told me what happened. I'm sure he did. Sam, this has to stop. We're adults. We can handle this like civilized people. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized I didn't recognize the woman standing in my kitchen. Somewhere along the way, she'd become a stranger wearing my wife's face. You're right. We are adults. So let's act like it. I pulled out the divorce papers I'd had prepared weeks ago. I've already signed them. You can have the house, the car, whatever you want. I just want out. She stared at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. Sam, wait. Maybe we can work through this. Work through what? The lying? The cheating? The fact that you've been treating me like garbage for months while screwing around with a used car salesman? It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You made your choice. Now live with it. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Saturday morning, I did something that would have made Pete proud. I called every person who'd been involved in this mess and invited them to a barbecue at my house. Jennifer, Brad, Laura, Linda, Carol, even Travis. I told each of them that Marissa had something important to announce. They all came. Curiosity is a powerful drug in a small town. I set up tables in the backyard, fired up the grill, and waited. When everyone had arrived, I called for attention. Thanks for coming, everyone. Marissa and I wanted to share some news with the people who matter most to us. Marissa looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. As you all know, there's been some tension lately. Some confusion about what's been happening in our marriage. So I thought it was time to clear the air. I pulled out a manila envelope and dumped its contents on the picnic table. Photos of the Sleepy Inn, printed text messages, hotel receipts, a timeline of every lie Marissa had told over the past 6 months. Ladies and gentlemen, I present the truth about my wife's late work meetings. The silence was deafening. Jennifer's face went white. Brad whistled low under his breath. Laura looked like she wanted to disappear. Travis started backing toward his car. Sam, don't do this, Marissa whispered. Do what? Tell the truth? Isn't that what adults do? I turned to address the crowd. For months, I've been treated like the problem, the jealous husband, the loser who couldn't handle his wife's success. Well, here's the real story. I went through everything methodically. Every lie, every betrayal, every moment of humiliation I'd endured while she carried on her affair. The crowd listened in stunned silence. When I finished, Travis was gone. Laura was crying. Jennifer looked like she wanted to murder her sister. Marissa, I said, the floor is yours. Any rebuttals? She stood there for a long moment, tears streaming down her face. Then she ran into the house. The party broke up quickly after that. People made excuses and left, but I could see it in their eyes. They'd never look at Marissa the same way again. In a small town, reputation is everything, and hers was finished. That evening, as I cleaned up the backyard alone, Pete showed up with a six-pack. Hell of a thing you did today, he said. Had to be done. Feel better? I thought about it. Yeah, actually, I do. Monday morning brought the final act. Marissa's car was gone when I woke up, along with most of her clothes. She'd left the signed divorce papers on the kitchen table with a note. You win. But I wasn't done winning yet. I drove to Murphy's car lot and found Travis washing cars in the back lot. He looked up when he heard my footsteps, fear flashing across his face. Relax, I said. I'm not here to fight. What do you want? I pulled out an envelope and handed it to him. Congratulations. She's all yours now. Inside were copies of all Marissa's credit card statements, showing thousands of dollars in debt I'd known nothing about. Shopping sprees, expensive dinners, hotel rooms, all charged to cards in both our names. She's broke, Travis. Has been for months. All those expensive clothes, that new jewelry she's been wearing, bought with money we don't have. The house is mortgaged to the hilt, and she's been skimming from her expense account at work. His face went pale as he read through the statements. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve each other. She's a liar and a cheat. And you're the kind of man who goes after married women. Match made in heaven. I started to walk away, then turned back. Oh, and Travis? Her boss Linda called this morning. Seems there's going to be an audit of the regional office. Something about irregularities in expense reports. Might want to ask Marissa about that. I left him standing there with his mouth open, staring at the evidence of what his dream girl really was. That afternoon, I got a call from Jennifer. Sam, I owe you an apology. No, you don't. Yes, I do. I always thought Marissa was too good for you. Turns out you were too good for her. Thanks, Jennifer. That means a lot. What are you going to do now? I looked around my store, at the life I'd built with my own hands, at the town that had been my home for 20 years. I'm going to keep doing what I've always done. Fix things that are broken. 6 months later, Jordan's Hardware was busier than it had been in years. Turns out, being the guy who exposed the biggest scandal in town history was good for business. People respected a man who stood up for himself. Marissa moved to the city with Travis, but that lasted about 3 months. Word was he dumped her when he found out about the debts. She was working at a department store now, living in a studio apartment, probably telling people how her ex-husband ruined her life. I didn't feel sorry for her. Not anymore. Pete and I were having beers at the Blue Anchor when he asked the question I'd been expecting. Any regrets? I thought about it, swirling the beer in my glass. Just one. I should have done it sooner. Outside, snow was starting to fall on our little town, covering everything in a clean white blanket. Fresh start, new beginning, the way life should be. I raised my glass to Pete. Here's to the truth. It might hurt, but it always wins in the end. He clinked his glass against mine. Amen to that, brother. Amen to that.